This video is a layout that I made in April of 2014 after my collection had been basically put in boxes for about 30 years. What I wanted to do is create a layout that was small and yet be able to do a lot of different things. As you can see, what I did to build this layout is I just took two pieces of 4x8 plywood, only a 1/4 inch thick with one smooth side, and for around the border to stabilize it I used 2x2s and also used 2x2s going across. This layout is actually 5 feet by 8 feet. Reason I did that was to accommodate the layout design that I came up with. Wanted to be able to use the switches I already had, which were K-line switches with 42 turns, which meant that I had to buy 42 tubular track to match. I already had tubular track and straight pieces, so that was not an issue. Plus I already had uncoupling track as well to uncouple my layout. As you can see, this layout, it took me a day basically to put the table together, not less than a day. That table actually fits on top, as you can see down below. That's an air hockey table, and all I did was put the tabletop on top the air hockey table. The tabletop itself is fairly light, easy to move. I could take it down very easily just by taking the buildings and the train off, leaving the track on. It's very easy to maneuver, to put away, in case I ever did want to use the air hockey table again. So it's pretty much a portable layout. The idea with the design was, of course, to have a loop, but I didn't care if there was a way to take the locomotives or train and reverse that loop. So I basically my idea was to have spurs coming off the main line and have kind of like a train yard. In this video you can see different buildings that I basically bought clear back in the late 70s, early 80s. And so I'll walk through with the different buildings that you see. The first one right by the signal tower is on the other side of it is just a lumber shed. The next building right across from it is a RICO station, and on the back side you see the engine house, and this is basically a unloading platform. I can't remember. I think it's like it's just basically your regular way to unload stuff. The lighted switch tower. Clear back in the back corner you see what they call Sandy Andy, or it was supposed to be a gravel loader. During the process of being put away and taken back out, that has some pieces broken on it, so it's one of those things I'm not sure if I can retrofit or not, but it's there in the corner just for looks. Right here, this is a big one of the biggest buildings on the display. It's a grain elevator. It doesn't work. What I did do on that grain elevator, it had a plate that was on the bottom that to me looked a little hokey, so I took it off. You can see the remnants of the plate on the one side where the grain car is at. The bottom part of that little, basically to help prop up that roof, is actually what it looked like, but it was a whole flat piece underneath. I took that off. Didn't like it. The only thing I do not like about the buildings I just mentioned is none of them are operating buildings. The only one that actually has any lights to it is, of course, the switch tower. The other ones don't. Eventually, I think down the road I probably will put lights to them, but I don't right now. As you can tell, this little water tower on the side is actually from the very first train set I ever had as a kid. So it's very old. It's the Plastiqueville, I believe made by Bachmann back then. The only building that ever survived from my old set. I don't have any of the old train cars out here. It was basically very simple and basic steam locomotive with a tender, no horn, just a working headlight. Had a gondola car, tank car, and a caboose, and that's all there was to it. The layout was actually pretty cool. It was built by my brother, and that's how I basically got hooked on trains clear back when I was a youngster. So anyway, here's some of the switches I was telling you about. This is K-line switches. I got at a train show a long time ago. They were never on any of the setups I had before. I basically bought the stuff after I already had put my stuff away in boxes. So anyway, that's those buildings. And so one of the buildings that I got that never was on my old layout, but I've had for a while, is this Lionelville Pipe Company. And as you can see, it's an operating car or building. Supposedly is taking pipes and putting it into the boxcar, which is all superficial, of course. It doesn't actually do it. But it actually is pretty cool because it is a operating building, and that's what I want to get more into. So this year, after I had made my layout, I purchased another building that was actually, it's called it's a loading belt loader, and all you do is flip the switch here, and as you see, it makes it look like it's loading boxes into the boxcar. It is a lighted building as well, which is pretty cool. It's known as the Pacific Coast Fruit Company. It has Southern Pacific and Union Pacific logos on it. I added the man, I added the barrels and different things to make it look more authentic. Of course, and then trailers going up to it. The buildings, as you can see, the operating buildings are, Lionel, in their great wisdom, have your traditional gauge and your standard, what they call O gauge, which is the higher profile. And that's why the buildings look so much different. This one is the Lionel Rail Truck Transfer Depot, and that's also operating. All it does is that man goes back and forth with his hand truck, and it also is lighted as well, which is kind of a cool feature. I like that idea. So those are my operating buildings, which I hope to get some more stuff like that because I think that really adds to the layout. So right down here on this side is what I call my control board. The transformer is from a ready-to-run set that I purchased this year, and it's an 80-watt unit. It runs the trains just fine. The switches for all the switch tracks are right there. very easy. They're lighted, as you can tell, and there are two little switches on the one side operate the two buildings that I just showed you. This other switch over here basically is for your uncoupling track. So when we look at the pieces I have as far as rolling stock, these cars here are from the Maxi stack, ready to run by, and it's a line of Burlington Northern Santa Fe. Here's some more of the track, or some more of the cars, and of course it came with a caboose as well, which I kind of found funny because nowadays none of the trains have cabooses. Yes, that set still did. It's one of the last sets that Lionel produced, ready to run, that was actually controlled by a transformer. Everything that's coming out this year is known as Lion Chief, which is remote only to get people interested in the hobby. Actually, I think it's pretty cool that they have that. They also have what they call the Lion Chief Plus, which is a very cool system and idea with the locomotives, where you can actually take those locomotives, flip a switch, and it's a traditional running locomotive like my setup is. So the rolling stock, let's continue with that. Most of my cars are from the 70s, late 70s and early 80s. As you can tell, I got the Santa Fe caboose. The next car to it is the mail carrier that actually is an operating car where the guy throws the mail out. The next car, of course, is another operating car, which is a dumps the coal. The next operating car dumps the logs. So I got 3 operating cars at the train show last weekend, which actually was a good deal. This is the back side of the buildings I was just talking about. Picked up also at the train show a truck and trailer with Lionel. And the other trailer is actually off a flat car, but I chose to put it on display like it was actually being used to unload stuff. So I went, and as you can tell, I have 2 spurs coming off the main line, and off the spurs I have 2 spurs coming off this one side. One is for the locomotive, for the engine house. The other, of course, is for my rolling stock. I got a train depot with no passenger cars down the line. Hopefully I'll use that line so I can use it for passenger cars or regular cars, whatever. I forgot about this one. This is actually they call it a watchman shanty, or for the person that's supposed to watch the rail yard. The little black trays are basically where you can have your loads dumped, whether it be coal,